Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, welcome officially to the channel. This is, as you know from the intro, a series where I go into odd game accessories or peripherals the developers made to get us more to the game mentally or physically. Today I want to talk about wireless controllers. And I know what you're thinking, this is a fairly modern thing. Why are you covering this? It's so... now. Well, not quite as now as you think it is. Nintendo is pretty well known for messing with this technology even as early as the Nintendo Entertainment System, with a few variations, but this technology goes back even further, all the way back to Atari. I know, some of you are going, of course it's Atari, because, well, most of the time, if it's not Nintendo, it's Atari, quite frankly. So, hang back, and let's talk Atari for a moment again as we take a look at the CX42 Atari controller. Now, many of us are used to wireless controllers, at least as far back as the Xbox 360, as they've been standard on most consoles for some time now. Most of us thinking that Sony and Microsoft got this idea from Nintendo's infamously famous Wavebird controller, which, for those of you who somehow don't know, was a wireless version of Nintendo's much beloved GameCube controller. This was a rock-solid, IR-based controller that seemed like it could never miss a beat, no matter how animated the player was during a gaming session, which was pretty impressive because IR technology up until this point had been kind of maligned by gamers and companies alike for how unreliable and useless it could be because it needed a very steady line of sight. However, this didn't keep people from trying this in the past. Companies like Nintendo themselves used things like the satellite, which would allow up to 4 players to plug into what looked like a modified 4-score. They would plug in their wired controllers and send the signal wirelessly to the console. Acclaim also took a shot at this with their remote controller, which was one of the more true wireless systems, and even Nintendo itself tried a base IR controller with an early version of the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was originally called the Nintendo AVS, which was short for Audio Visual System. This system, revealed in 1984, had a wand that could turn into a light gun and wireless controllers. Now, these were reportedly not all that responsive and susceptible to losing connectivity due to the limitations of IR technology at the time. But I'd wager that this wasn't just an idea that came up out of the blue. No. I suspect they got this directly from Atari and their CX42 controller, at least in some variant. The Atari CX42 controller was a bit of a beast. This was a pair of controllers, at least I believe they came in a pair. Oftentimes Atari stuff is hard to track down specifics on because of the age of it and the poor documentation of the Atari that's remained in general. But regardless, this would be a pair that would attach to a powered receiver that would then connect to your Atari 2600, or, well, anything that could use Atari's 9-pin connector, which, quite frankly, would make this a PC controller as well. These two controllers were almost double the height of a standard Atari controller, as much of the bottom was dedicated to the antenna and power of the controller itself, which used a 9-volt battery. Yeah, a 9-volt. Almost nothing uses those today outside of smoke detectors. These would then be powered on with a simple flick of a switch, and the rather beastly antenna on the front would reach out to the receiver unit, which honestly is a little confusing to understand how this thing connects just from the instructions, because, well, if you could read this, your English is either better or more broken than mine, because it didn't make any sense when I read it, and I read it like 4 times. Still, here's how this works, since I looked up images of the back of the unit and found a video. The two controller plugs on the back of the receiver, labeled left and right, plug in respectively to the controller plugins on the actual Atari itself. Then, in very Atari fashion, the output power plug of the bottom of the receiver goes into the Atari, and then the receiver's power plug goes from it to the wall. So yeah, you're basically using the receiver like a power strip for your Atari unit. This honestly wasn't that uncommon back in the day. The Odyssey 2 did something similar like this with its voice synthesization unit, and a few other devices that I can't remember off the top of my head did this as well, I believe. It's honestly a fairly clean solution, and, well, seems far better than the Genesis solution of everything must have a power brick, and you may need 2 or more power strips in order to plug the entire tower of power together which was something to behold when it was put together anyway. As to the tech in these, I have to imagine they're using radio frequencies to communicate to the receiver. And I say that because it looks like literally a walkie-talkie is attached to the bottom of the Atari controller, and the receiver itself would interpret the signals from these and send those over to the console. How well it worked? I'll be honest, I don't have any idea. I couldn't really find anything. I was actually looking up some other devices you guys had sent me when I stumbled into this one, and given how long it had been since I touched on Atari, it seemed high time I dipped back into that well again for another gem of an oddity. But what I was able to find on Atari Leaf's channel specifically is it looks like it worked fairly well and had solid range. In fact, you've likely seen some of his footage in this video, as he's one of the few people I could find who had done footage of the controllers themselves. So go over to his channel and give him some love. However, what do you guys think of this one? Do you like this controller? Did any of you ever own a pair, and how well did they work for you? Do you like the design, or do they look too unwieldy? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, please give this video a like. And if you haven't, consider subscribing. That helps me out a ton. Until we meet again though, have a great rest of your day, and happy gaming.